Hey guys, what's up? It's iFlynn here, and welcome to episode 18 of my Warframe Beginners Guide for 2025. In today's video, what we're going to be doing is we're actually going to be playing the Steel Path star chart. So you can see that I've got my navigation set to Steel Path mode here, and you can see that I basically haven't done all of the nodes. So I still need to do nodes on Earth, I still need to do nodes on Venus, I still need to do nodes on Mercury. Like, the star chart is basically from zero again. Now, while I'm playing through these nodes on the star chart, I'm going to be playing as Necros, and I'm going to be using this build right here with Gloom subsumed over the fourth ability. And the reason that I'm going to be playing Necros specifically is because of his Desecrate ability. So whenever I get kills, enemies are going to drop more loot. This is going to pair really well with the resource drop chance boost from the Steel Path and also the mod drop chance boost. On top of that, if you've been farming up some platinum, you can go ahead, head over to the market, and you can pick up some boosters as well. So you can see I've got resource drop chance boosters, just regular resource boosters, credit boosters, and affinity boosters. Now, of course, these things do cost platinum, and to get the platinum, we need to be trading, prime items, for example, with other players. But getting these prime items is going to become much easier because if you go to your navigation here and you go to the star chart, let's go ahead, put it back to the normal mode. You can take a look and you can see that we have a capture, excavation, spy, capture, interception. But then if we swap it back to Steel Path, the nodes actually change. So we have disruption, sabotage, rescue, defense, mobile defense. So basically, by having the Steel Path star chart and also the regular star chart, this unlocks more nodes basically, which can be more efficient nodes to basically open up your relics. So for example, Capture is literally the fastest game mode in the game. So if I wanted to open up some Lift relics, I would just spam the Capture. Or let's say, for example, I need to open up, Neo relics. I could do this Neo capture on the regular star chart instead of being limited to the Steel Path star chart and having to do mobile defense or something. So this is really good because if we go and we take a look at my relics here, you can see that just from playing the game, naturally I've accumulated like a lot of relics. So now is basically the time where you want to be opening up relics and refining them as well with the traces that you've got to go ahead and farm up prime sets. So basically, you've got the permission now to just go and farm up as many prime warframes, prime weapons as possible. Craft the ones that you want. So for example, I've got 2 prime frames crafting in my inventory right now. So I've got a Chroma Prime and a Titania Prime. And this is just because of the people that I've been playing with, right? They had a lot of Chroma Prime relics and I was like, hey, let's go ahead and farm a Chroma Prime set. And I think Titania Prime is currently in the Prime Resurgence, so you can get her relics with Aya. Yeah, so as you can see, Titania Prime and Gara Prime relics are just here available in the Prime Resurgence tab. So I went ahead and picked some of these up, and I was able to farm up a Titania Prime. Another thing that I've got crafting is the Fenmore as well. Now, this is the Incarnon rifle from the Zarman tile set, and that's going to be really good for the Steel Path as well. So yeah, this is basically the bare minimum loadout that I'm running. I'm running this Necros build here specifically. I'm running this as my Naderic build. You don't have to have this longbow sharpshot in there if you don't have it. It's totally okay to just run in with this specific build. The mods, I mean, not necessarily the Arcane. I've still got the Grimoire here. Now, like I said, the Grimoire isn't necessarily a damage dealing weapon. It's just for the invocation mods that you can get from the Mirror Defense game mode in the Sanctum. If you don't want to bother with this, which is totally fine because Mirror Defense is very slow and boring, you can just go ahead and pick up the Latum like I showed in the previous episode and use this instead. This is more of a damage dealing weapon because obviously you've got all of these incarnate evolutions, right? So it's just going to deal a ton of damage. And then, of course, basically since we got it, we're still using the regular Zoras here. I've got melee influence. Now, this Arcane is from the Sanctum. You can go ahead, throw that on, and it's basically just going to allow you to kill more enemies in like a wider area, basically. So this is basically just the build that I'm running. I could forma and make it more optimized, but you're going to see that this is going to do like totally fine. Now, if you're scared of the Steel Path for any reason, you can go ahead and play through all of the nodes on public. That's totally fine as well. But because I like doing things fast, I'm just going to go ahead and play on invite only. Another thing that you're going to notice is you have this Steel Path incursions thing in the top right now. So these are basically just missions that you go ahead and play, and it's going to reward you with the currency Steel Essence. With the steel essence that you get, you can come and talk to Teshin in a relay, press Steel Path Honors, and then you can go ahead and buy stuff. Now, the stuff inside the shop changes on a weekly basis, so there might be like a set of free Forma or a Umbra Forma blueprint or something like that in here. So just come back every single week and spend some of the steel essence that you get from playing through Steel Path missions to basically like get more stuff. Really important, primary Arcane Adapter and secondary Arcane Adapter. This is going to allow you to put Arcane Adapters onto your weapons so you can run the Arcanes that you're going to get from Steel Path and the Zariman. So as an example, I can come to my turret incarnon, press on this, install Arcane Adapter, and there you go. Now I can equip some Arcanes to my turret incarnon. And I'm definitely going to go ahead and do the exact same for my Latum as well. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and jump into this Steel Path Exterminate here on Earth, just to give you guys a taste of what the Steel Path star chart is kind of like. Remember, you can go ahead and use your gear as well to put down an energy pad so you can cast your abilities from the get-go. So what I'd recommend doing is go ahead and cast your Gloom, then turn on your Desecrate, and now you start running through the mission. Start killing the enemies. Now, these enemies are armored, and our Terrify ability actually strips the armor from the enemies, making them just straight up easier to kill. You can see that we're one-shotting them now. And basically, all you want to do is just go ahead and run through the mission as normal. Like, with the setup that we've got, or the setup that I've basically told you guys to go and get, like, these missions are going to be extremely easy. I've got my incarnon form basically ready to go. Gonna go ahead and strip the armor from the enemies and just, yeah, we one-shot them. And as you can see, like, it's not really difficult at all because the enemies are just straight up slowed to a crawl. You do want to be careful of the Eximus enemies though, because they're not going to be affected by your abilities. But yeah, as long as you prioritize killing them, you should be totally fine. And through Steel Path missions, you're going to get the Stalker Flash basically happening. And this is going to spawn in an Acolyte. So you can see on the right-hand side of my screen there, a guy called Torment is going to spawn in. We want to go ahead and take him down. Just find out where he teleports to. He kind of jumps around a little bit, this guy. And once he's dead, you're going to get unidentified item. That's basically just an Arcane. And you're also going to get a little bit of Steel Essence, the currency that we spend at Teshin. Every single time that you play a Steel Path mission, one of those Acolytes is going to spawn in. And they're always going to drop an Arcane for your primary or secondary. You can see I actually already have a lot of the secondary Dexterity Arcane here. And this basically gives you more base damage. It works just like how Serration or Hornet Strike or Pressure Point would. So it says on melee kill, plus 60% damage for 20 seconds, stacks up to 6 times. And it also gives you more combo duration as well. So what you have to do is you have to get 21 of the Arcanes so you can basically like upgrade them so they're at their maximum potential. So you can see here that I've got Secondary Merciless, right? And it's at rank 4. But I can spend 6 of these Secondary Merciless Arcanes to upgrade it up to a rank 5. And now I've got a maxed out Secondary Merciless. Now I've got so many because I've been playing my bounties and stuff in Steel Path mode already. But having this Arcane in basically allows you to swap out this mod in most cases. You might not want to do that right now because you're kind of limited in the mods that you've got. And also, these Arcanes are sometimes conditional. So, for example, this one is on kill. So, you have to get a kill first before you get that damage buff. So, yeah, as you play through the Steel Path, go ahead, get these Arcanes, and just apply them to your weapons. And then the other thing that I wanted to mention as well, if you have some Forma laying around, it is definitely worth going ahead and throwing the Forma onto the weapons that you know you like using. So for me, I would definitely go ahead and throw Forma onto the Latum because I know that the Latum is a really good weapon. So I just go ahead, press Polarization, and put a V polarity in. This is going to reset the rank of my Latum, so I have to go and level it up now. So it's worth me going in and doing like a Elite Sanctuary Onslaught or something like that. My Nadaruk, I could definitely go ahead and Forma this if I wanted to upgrade my Galvanized Scope a little bit more. And my Zorus, like I definitely want to Forma my Zorus. So I'm going to go ahead and put another V polarity in here for Blood Rush. And I formed my Zorus twice now. So I'm going to go ahead and level up the weapons that I just formed. And then I'm going to keep on playing through the Steel Path star chart. So what I quickly want to do is just go ahead and show you guys basically all of the resources that I have in my inventory at this moment in time. And then what I'm going to do is after I've completed the Steel Path star chart or close to completing it, I'm going to come back in here and show you the rest of what I've got. We're mainly trying to focus on you know, the likes of like ferrite, for example, or neural sensors or something like that. So you can see that I've got like 267,000 nanospores, right? And I've got 53 neurodes. We're trying to basically just bulk up our inventory so then we can come back to our foundry. We can get a bunch of blueprints, let's say from the market, from the dojo, from, you know, relics to prime parts, for example. And then we can just have a ton of stuff crafting after we've completed the Steel Path star chart. So now we're really trying to like bulk up our inventory, get as many resources as we can, get as many things crafting all at once, so then we can just skyrocket our mastery rank and yeah, basically be caught up with the rest of the Warframe players. So I'm just going to go ahead, run through all of the Steel Path missions with Necros. The weapons you use, that's entirely up to you. As long as you're comfortable killing the enemies with the weapons that you've got, it's totally down to you. Okay, so a few things that I want to point out as you're progressing through the Steel Path star chart is if you, for example, get to, let's say, a boss, so Sargus Ruck here on Tifis on Saturn, don't be afraid to literally just swap over to your vault and use that damage buffing build that we put together. So just so I can show you guys, that's this one right here with Rhino's Roar on the 4. Don't be afraid to swap to this just to get the boss done, because I definitely struggled trying to take down Sargus Ruck and also this guy here on Uranus. So this is Tal Regor. So yeah, if you're struggling to deal damage to certain types of enemies, just swap over to that Vault build, use the Shock Trooper buff on the 1, use the Roar buff on the 4, and the mission will become super easy. Another thing that I want to point out as well is here in Uranus, you actually have to go and upgrade your Arcwing. Like what I did is I went and I put a potato on the Mossalon to give it that extra capacity to throw on these mods right here, and that allowed me to get through it a little bit easier. Now your Imperator does come pre-potatoed, but it's just not that good. Like the Mossalon is just so much better, so you might as well just go ahead and spend some platinum or whatever to put a potato on this and then go ahead and throw on these mods. Also on the Ononada, this is the build that I'm running. I had 0 issues with survivability whenever it came to fighting in the water, so yeah. Okay, so I'm here at my star chart, and as you can see, I've made it all the way to Sedna using my Steel Path mode. So I've basically got every single planet basically unlocked in the Steel Path version of the star chart. And this is basically just going to make the entire game more efficient. There's a lot of activities which reward certain resources. So say, for example, if you do a run of the Deviri experience, right? At the end of that, you get Pathos Clamps, and you get a certain amount for completing it on normal mode. But if you complete it in Steel Path mode, well, you're going to get more at the end. That rule basically is true for everything on the star chart. So for example, if we head over to the Sanctum, there is a disruption mission. So this Armistice disruption mission, right? And whenever you kill one of the disruption enemies, the ones that go beep and they blow up the objective, if you come over to Lloyd in the Sanctum, you can go ahead and you can press Research Dante, and you can see this resource. It's called these Vessel Capillaries. Now you spend these Vessel Capillaries to get the parts for Dante, and by playing the Disruption mission on the Steel Path mode, you're going to get more of these Vessel Capillaries every single time you kill one of the Beep Beep boys. We're basically at the stage of the game now where the focus is building out our inventory, so getting as many resources as possible and getting as many strong Warframes and Warframe loadouts as possible. Dante is one of those Warframes that is just absolutely broken, so what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and farm up as many of these Vessel Capillaries as possible. And I'm just going to craft the Dante so I can have him and play him. Now, another thing to keep in mind, if you come to the Fishy and you go ahead and press bounties, you can also play the Steel Path Disruption here. If there's one up, there currently isn't one up for me, but if you do have a Disruption bounty, you can go ahead and play that. You're still going to get rewarded with those capillaries. And you're also going to make progress towards your standing in a day. Another Warframe that we're going to go ahead and pick up is actually the regular version of Gauss. Now, the Prime version is currently available in the game to farm right now. So if I come down to my foundry, I type in Gauss, you can see that I've got the blueprint, neuroptics, chassis, and I just need the systems basically. that I can go ahead and craft him, but I'm not really crafting him to play the Warframe himself, even though he is really good. I'm more so crafting the regular version so we can throw him into the Helminth, and then we can get his Helminth ability. And the reason that I'm looking for that Helminth ability is simply because that ability is going to enable us to make some wacky builds, which is going to make a lot of different missions in the game a lot more efficient. So to farm up a regular Gauss, you want to go ahead and you want to do the Disruption mission on Sedna. So that's Kappa up here. Just go ahead and play this in the normal star chart just so it's easy. All of the different blueprints for Gauss drop from Rotation C, so just keep on killing the Beep Beep boys as they spawn in until you get all the parts. And another thing we can do, which I'm actually going to do right now, is farm up Grendel. Now we're getting Grendel to level him from 0 to 30 to throw him into the Helminth, so then we can get his Helminth ability as well. Because that ability, Nourish, is going to make things a lot more efficient and easier too. Now this is only going to be applicable to you if you've been following along with the guide to a T. We went ahead, we did arbitrations, we got Vitus Essence, and we bought all of the locators from the arbitrations vendor in any relay, and that goes ahead and puts these free missions over here on Europa. Now you can see that it's a defense, an excavation, and a survival, and it says conditions mods disabled, so all of your mods are basically going to be turned off. Now there is one exception to this mods disabled. Apparently your augment mods actually still work. So in the case of our Vault Prime here, you can see that we've got Shock Trooper. That's still going to work for us. Now, I'm going to go into this mission with a regular Nadarik and a Carius Prime and my Zorus. And I'm going to go ahead and opt to do the survival first. So you can see straight away that your weapons are just not as good as they should be. Basically, nothing that you have works apart from your Shock Trooper. So just go ahead, turn that there on, and just survive as normal. Honestly, how difficult you find this mission is just going to be down to you, at least in my opinion. Like, I personally don't think it's going to be that hard, especially because we're using Vault. So we've got Shock Trooper to buff up our damage. We've got speed to buff up our, reload speed and melee speed if we decide to use a melee weapon. We've got Electric Shield, which is going to add electric damage to our shots and amplify our crits. And we also have Rhino's Roar turned on as well, which is just going to increase our damage too. So it's all about just killing as many enemies as fast as possible in the survival missions so you can go ahead and survive the 20 minutes. But I would say if you're having trouble with the life support, like let's say you're not killing the enemies fast enough, you can definitely go ahead and use a frame such as Necros, and Necros is going to make the enemies drop more life support more frequently, and that's just going to make it easier for you to basically sustain the objective. But as long as you're killing fast enough, you should be fine anyway. So yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and survive these 20 minutes, and I'll talk to you guys when I'm done. So I was able to complete that survival mission with no problem. That got me the Grendel Neuroptics. Now I'm going to go ahead and move on to the excavation. So we need to get 800 cryotics, so that is a total of 8 excavators successfully defended. To be totally honest with you guys, this is my first time ever attempting this, so I'm quite surprised at how easy this is. Simply because I've heard a lot of people complain about this and say that it's really difficult. So I didn't really know what I was getting myself into, but with this excavation, if you go ahead and pick up the batteries that the enemies drop, which you have to do anyway to obviously power the drill, that's going to regen the shield of the drill. So just time your battery usage with whenever the objective takes, a decent amount of damage if you're struggling to kill all of the enemies, I guess. But as you can see, I'm just throwing my Zorus here. I don't have any abilities turned on, and this isn't really proven to be too difficult, to be honest. Would be nice if I had a little bit more energy so I can, cast some of my abilities, which would make it a little bit easier. But even still, like, it's not too difficult. Got 25 seconds left on this excavator, and then it's totally done. And I mean, if I was struggling a lot, I would just put an electric shield in front of the excavator that's taking a lot of damage. But as you can see, like, I'm not really taking too much damage because the enemies just literally aren't aggroing onto me. So there we go, 100 cryotics. So I'm just going to go ahead and defend the next 7 excavators, and I'll talk to you guys when I'm done. All right, so I just completed that excavation over on Europa. Now I'm going to go ahead and jump into the defense. The excavation wasn't hard, it was just a little bit annoying because I found that not enough enemies were spawning in to give me the batteries. So like I wasn't having an issue killing the enemies, but I was having an issue like, you know, keeping the excavators alive because I just wasn't getting the batteries. But whenever people complain about these Grendel missions, I'm gonna assume that the sticking point is probably gonna be this defense mission. Simply because, like, it is a defense mission, it has field conditions, so I'm just gonna try my hardest and see how this goes, and let you guys know how it goes at the end. I didn't really have any problems, but here we go. Grendel chassis blueprint, easy peasy, done and dusted. So now that I've got all of the blueprints for Grendel, I gotta go out of my way to get some of the resources, and as you can see, they're kind of out of the way. They need stuff from the Plains of Eidolon, so I'm gonna have to get around to doing that at some point. The main blueprint for Grendel just comes from the market, so just go to the market, go ahead, hit blueprint, purchase, and you're done. So my next focus whenever it comes to this account is simply just maxing out my standing over at Cetus, over at Fortuna, so over in Cetus specifically with the Ostron and the Quills, and then over in Venus just with the Solaris United, not the Vox Solaris, so that's Little Duck. Like, we can do that a lot more efficiently later whenever we unlock the boss fight over here, but before we can unlock that boss fight, we have to get to max rank just with the regular Solaris United. So by the next episode, I'm gonna have max rank Solaris United, and I'm going to have max rank Ostron and also max rank Quills. And that's basically just going to allow me to go in and buy some of the stuff that we need, so then we can craft like really good amps and yeah, just take down Eidolons a lot faster, kill angels a lot faster, and do a lot more stuff that involves our operator a lot quicker. Absolutely don't forget, guys, to come over to the Chrysalith and go ahead and get some of the Void Plumes, trade those in for some standing, and then use that standing to go and get some of the stuff from Cavalero. So for example, if you've already got, you know, all of these incarnon weapons, so the Laedum, the Inodum, the Femmor, the Felarx, and the Praetos, what you can then focus on is picking up Eternal Eradicate and Eternal Onslaught. Both of these arcanes are basically just going to increase the amount of damage that you deal with your amps. So you need 21 of each of these, so just go ahead and pick those up whenever you've got enough, you know, standing. But then the other thing as well is if you want to equip both, you actually need to purchase an amp arcane adapter that costs 20,000 standing. So there's still reason to come back to the Chrysalith, even if you have it maxed out, and you know, get yourself some standing because you want to buy a lot of this stuff. Another thing is also Cascadia Flare. So this is basically an arcane which is going to give you bonus damage, similar to how Hornet Strike does, but instead it's going to apply whenever you apply a heat status effect. This is a pretty meta arcane for your secondary weapons. Molt Efficiency, I might have touched on a little bit before, but basically when you have shields, you get more ability duration. This is really good. And it's the same story with Molt Augmented. As you get kills, you get more ability strength. This goes up to 250 kills, so you can get a ton of ability strength from having a maxed out one of these arcanes. So it is going to take a while because you can see that a single Molt Augmented costs 10,000 standing. You know, a single Molt Efficiency costs 7,500. But that's more of a reason to just, you know, log in every single day, come over the Quinn, take a little look and see if there is an Exterminate bounty. So this right here, this is literally the perfect bounty to get, because this is going to, you know, it's quick. It's an Exterminate mission. You do it fast, and also you wake up a Void Angel and you get some of the plumes from killing the angel as well. Those plumes you're going to have to use to, of course, craft your weapons, the incarnon weapons and stuff like that, and also for standing. So this is the exact bounty that you're looking for, and because I got so lucky, I'm going to go ahead and run this as much as I can right now. Another thing to make sure to pay attention to is definitely the rewards from Bird Free. So for example, melee influence, you want to have 21 of these, so then you can go ahead and get a max rank one, throw it onto your melee weapons with a melee arcane adapter, and you're basically going to nuke entire rooms because of the single arcane. On top of that, every single week he also offers shiny treasures, so you have these Archon shards. Now, assuming you went ahead and built the Archon shard Helm segment, which you got after the Veilbreaker quest, you're going to be able to throw these onto your Warframes. And another thing you're able to do is you're able to come in here and buy the Helm of Coalescent Segment Blueprint. You can take this, go into your foundry, craft it, and that's going to allow you to upgrade your Archon shards to the more powerful versions or different colors. So this is definitely worth picking up as well. So I'm going to go ahead and play enough bounties so I can get the stand-in to get this and then craft it. Hopefully you've went out of your way to pick up a Fenmore from Cavaliero, and what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to evolve it. So the first thing that I've got to do is actually kill 100 enemies just with the weapons. So we're just going to go ahead and throw together a pretty simplistic build. I'll just buy a potato because why not? So I'm just going to go ahead and jump into a few missions, kill 100 enemies with, of course, this build that I've got together right now. And we'll talk more about the upgrades as we keep on progressing. So a cool thing with these incarnon weapon challenges and also like Riven mod challenges is if you complete them in the mission and you're like, oh yeah, I'm done, but I have to wait like another like 4 minutes or whatever for the survival timer. You don't have to. Just pause the game, abort mission. And I know that might seem scary because like we haven't done that in Warframe yet, where we complete something and then we just leave. But if we go down to our arsenal and we go to the Fenmore, we can see that we've you know, got the cool upgrade. We've moved on to Evo 2 and we can go ahead and select one of these. So I would go ahead and select Rapid Wrath for that additional fire rate. And then the next challenge is to land 20 headshots on Void Angels with primary fire without reloading. We're just going to go ahead and start up this Void Angel Exterminate mission again. And also, if you struggle with this, what you can do is you can come into your modding section and just type in, you know, magazine capacity, and you can equip any of these mods here, which basically just give you a higher magazine capacity, you know. So Wildfire could go in instead of Hellfire, right? And I have 36 bullets in the magazine rather than the 30. And then I could also throw on this Magnetic Might or Magnetic Capacity mod, upgrade it like 2 times, and then let's see, we go up to 39 shots. So that's just going to help us, you know, get the headshots on this Void Angel without reloading. So I'm just going to go ahead, complete the bounty here, and then we'll wake up the Void Angel at the end, basically. So here's our Void Angel. Thankfully, I got one of those like little infinite ammo and increased fire rate. I don't really remember what they're called, but it's one of those little hands with like the yellow ball at the top. I think it's like a lock, some type of lock buff or whatever, but that's just going to make this even easier. So there's, you know, our multi-shot counts for the headshots. So I guess the electric procs do as well. I don't really know why I just randomly got 9 on that challenge, but hey, you know, these incarnon challenges aren't exactly the most consistent things, I guess. So we're just going to take it. I need him to turn around. There we go. It just goes up and up and up with every electric proc, so I guess that's a thing. One more, maybe, hopefully, 19, 20, and we're done. And I can either kill this guy, or I can go ahead and just pause the game and extract, but I'm just going to go ahead and kill him. Here's the incarnon form, so whenever he stops doing this little ball attack, I'll go ahead and show how kind of crazy this thing can be. So check this out, we just hold down left click. It's not dealing the most amount of damage right now, but that's because we haven't got all the upgrades and stuff like that. And the weapon really only deals like a ton of damage like once you've got all those upgrades on. So yeah, there's that. But yeah, as you can see, it's just kind of like a really cool LMG once you turn on the incarnon form. It's quite cool. Heading over to Cavaliero here, pressing Evolve Incarnon Weapons, pressing on the Fenmore, and you can see we've got our next upgrade. So on headshot, 20% chance to instant reload. On reload from empty, more reload speed, or more magazine capacity. Now, Ready Retaliation actually affects the evolve time, so whenever you go into the evolution form, basically. So we're going to go for this one. And we also have this next upgrade as well. So this one we're going to go for Elemental Excess, so more status chance, but less crit chance. And now for this final Evo, we need to complete a solo mission with an Incarnon weapon equipped in every single slot. So for me, that's going to be my Fenmore. I'm also going to use my Ladim and my Nami Solo Incarnon. Of course, if you don't have the Nami Solo Incarnon, you can get the Inodim or the Praetos. And I'm just going to go ahead and do another one of those exterminates. And with that solo mission out of the way, we've unlocked our final upgrade, and we're going to go for Devouring Attrition, so 50% chance to deal plus 2,000 damage on non-critical hits. It's kind of insane. So what I've done is I fixed up this sort of like makeshift build, and I got myself a primary arcane adapter. I'm just going to go ahead and throw on, you can throw on Deadhead, you can throw on Merciless, it's really down to you. It's down to, you know, basically whatever you've got the most of. And what we're going to do with this Fenmore, now that we've got it built up, is we're going to actually attempt our first Archon hunt. Now, this is a weekly thing. You get 2 normal missions, so I got a Spy and a Disruption, and then at the end, you've got the Archon Showdown. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, run through the Spy, run through the Disruption, and then I'm going to show you guys the final Showdown, because that is what we basically have built this Fenmore out for. So I went ahead, I've completed that Spy mission, I've completed that Disruption mission. Here is the build that I'm rocking on my Vault Warframe. Now you might want to go ahead and throw some type of defensive mod into the Exilus slot if you've got an Aura Forma in here, but I don't think you will have an Aura Forma. But if you happen to have one in, you can go ahead, throw in something like, you know, health regen or more health or something along those lines. You can see that I'm running Vitality, Adaptation, and Rolling Guard, and this is simply because this boss fight is quite tough. Like, they can kill you quite quickly. And if you're playing solo, well, if you die, you're going to have to restart the mission. If you're playing in co-op, you can get revived, so it's no big deal, and I do actually recommend playing it in co-op, but just for the sake of demonstrating that you can actually do it, you know, sort of at this stage, I'm just going to go ahead and do it solo. One final look at the build that I'm running on the Fenmore. Now, I'm actually going to go ahead and just rock Primary Merciless here for the simple fact that it's just going to be easier for me to sort of like keep that up. And I'm also going to go ahead and rock the Madarai Focus skill tree instead of Zeneric. That's just going to increase my damage because the Phoenix Talon's here. Now we're going to go ahead, jump right into the showdown. So your problem isn't going to be with your damage output. It's mainly going to be with your survivability. And if you are like really struggling, what I recommend doing is just, you know, get a frame that can give you overguard. Like get a Rhino Prime, get a Dante, something like that. And you can go ahead and throw Roar onto, you know, the likes of Dante, for example, and that's gonna keep you alive and give you the ability to deal a lot of damage. But what we should do is we should actually whip out our Fenmore here, start headshotting a few enemies to build up our incarnon form on it before we get into the boss fight. So I've got full charge on my incarnon form. I'm gonna go ahead, cast my Roar buff, and here is the Archon spawning in. Cast the incarnon form now, and we just hold left click. Now you want to make sure that you are jumping out of the way of their attacks, because you straight up just don't want to get hit. And just make sure to hold left click until you deal enough damage, and eventually you're going to get put into this like little animation. Now this next stage, we're going to get to this little door here. Now what we need to do is we need to go in basically 2 opposite directions. We need to go towards A and we need to go towards B. Once you get into A, you're going to see this sort of like Narmer enemy in the middle here. You just want to go ahead, kill all of the enemies that he's linked to, and then you'll be able to kill him. Once you've took him down, he's going to drop this little mask. You want to go ahead, pick it up, and head back to the door. Then you put that key into either side, and then you just want to repeat that exact same process for B. Key in the other side, and we're good to go. Now my energy was pretty low, so I just went ahead and I popped a little energy pad so I could cast Roar before going into the fight. And that way I can just, you know, deal the most amount of damage possible. Now he spawns in these mobs that we got to go ahead, kill. Go ahead, take them down. And once those little mobs that he spawns in are dead, you can go ahead and just lay into the Archon themselves. Of course, make sure to not die. You don't want to die and then have to restart if you're playing solo. Anytime your incarnon form goes off, just run around and shoot some of the mobs that are around until you get enough juice. Like, you don't have to fill it up the entire way. Just, you know, you can go halfway and then activate your incarnon form again. Now, I took too long, so I have to defeat the summons again. And I've depleted all of his health. Now we just gotta make sure that we can, you know, actually do the takedown without dying. So just walk up to it and press X. You can see that my animation is a little bit bugged as usual. And that's it. Now you just want to get to the exit without dying, and you'll have got your first Archon shard from Archon Hunts. So now, if you go to your Helminth, and you take a little seat, you can go into your Archon shard section here, and you can see that you can actually equip some of the Archon shards that you might have. So I've got 3 red, I've got 2 yellow, 1 is a Talforge, so the stats that it gives are just higher, and 1 is blue. Now, whenever we craft that segment that we picked up from Bird Free, what's going to happen is we can spend, I believe it's 3 of the shards to upgrade it from the regular to the Talforge, to the upgraded version, or you can fuse 2 of the shards to turn them into sort of like combined colors, so green, purple, and orange, which give different types of buffs. For now, we're just going to focus on the red ones and the yellow ones. Now, whenever you apply a shard to a Warframe, it's non-committal, right? So you can equip a shard. So let's say, for example, I wanted to put on this shard because I can give myself a 10% ability strength, right? I'm just going to go ahead and do that, and I can do it again, and I can do it for a third time. And I'm just straight up not bothered, because if I want to remove it, all I have to do is go to my helm and feed him, and I have to sacrifice some of my resources here to get myself bile. And it's going to take 30% of the bile that I've got built up. So the go-to resource, I think at least, is kind of void gel orbs to get bile, because you get these from the Zarman. So all you have to do is play like a relic mission, like an Omnia Fisher in the Zarman. Just do the objective, and you're going to get a bunch of void gel orbs, and you can go ahead and you can trade these in for bile to remove those shards. I'm going to keep them on for now, simply because like Vault is basically the only frame that I'm using at the moment, and having a little bit more ability strength is of course going to help out with my speed buff, is going to help out with my Rhino's Roar, is going to help out with Shock Trooper, and the effects of the Archon shards that you've got equipped actually show up on the stats screen as well, so that's quite nice. But yeah, that is basically going to be it for today's episode. The last thing that we're going to do is the Mastery Rank test. So this is the Mastery Rank 18 test, and it is an advanced defense test where we have to complete 5 waves of defense. I'm using a Naderic with the build that I've showed. I'm using a Latham, probably with a better build to be honest, but here's the Naderic as you can see, and yeah, you one-shot the enemies, so just go ahead, defend, use your abilities, all that good stuff, and your MR18. But yeah, thank you guys for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, hit subscribe. If you want to see more Warframe content from me, hit subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. I think I messed up that outro. Oh well.